Video games made into movies, probably a bad idea, mostly because the directors rarely respect the lore or rarely care about the source material. They just want a name to attach to the movie in order to get people to put butts in seats. And then usually they serve them a completely different vision than what the game used to be. This does not seem to be the case with Uncharted, because it's going to be a prequel to the actual storyline from the game. It's going to be starring Tom Holland, and we're going to be exploring how Nathan Drake befriended Sully. Next up, we got the opposite end of the spectrum, exactly what I've been talking about before. A video game made into a movie that is unlikely to have much to do with the story or the plot of the video game. I don't think that Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six required a movie adaptation, but here we go. The story is going to focus on a CIA operative that is seeking revenge because a Baltimore drug lord murdered his girlfriend. This sounds like a completely original and never before seen story for an action movie. Definitely not a marketing ploy to take advantage of a famous video game in order to sell a mediocre story. On a far more interesting note, we got Mortal Kombat coming up, and this is something that I'm looking forward to because the director of this is the same person that directed The Conjuring. The original Mortal Kombat movie was quite excellent at the time of its release, and I can say it's one of the very few video games made into a movie that's actually good. Given the fact that there was also a miniseries released on YouTube, featuring a new take on Mortal Kombat that was also enjoyable to watch, makes my expectations actually quite high for this. Mortal Kombat does have a very interesting universe, and hopefully they are going to explore interesting realms such as Outworld or the Netherrealm. Some of the characters that have been announced to feature is Scorpion, Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, Cage, Sonya, Jax, and many others, with the release of this movie coming around April 16th, 2021. Following up, we got Nerf the Boobies, the video game. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but the developers of the game actually spoke at length that they wanted to make Lara's chest look more realistic because women with big breasts in real life do not exist. And that's something that kind of put me off from watching the first Tomb Raider movie. I know it's a childish thing to say, but like, hey, I'm just calling it as it is. I was a teenager at the time, and there were two things I was interested in: violence and boobies. And if you take one, then I'm not going to watch your movie, because hey, it's my hard-earned money, and I get to do with it whatever I want. But I might actually watch the second installment. Despite the mediocre receival of the 2018 Tomb Raider, it seems that the Warner Bros. Want to take another crack at it. Now, if I was excited about this initially, all of my expectations died the moment I found out that the Lovecraft Country showrunner, Misha Green, is going to come aboard on the writing team. I would rather take small boobies than to watch a movie written by that guy, considering what disrespect he has shown to the Lovecraft franchise. I'm going to give a hard pass. However, all is not lost because Netflix is developing a Tomb Raider anime, if you can believe it, which is going to be set in the same universe as the video game. The action is going to take place after the events of the 2018 Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And it is unknown whether or not the voice actress from the video game is going to star in the anime, but at least that sounds more promising than a movie written by Misha Green, which has managed to inflict his vision of Lovecraft Country upon our world. And no, seriously, I did watch one episode of Lovecraft Country, and I just didn't know what I did wrong. Like, what did I do to deserve that being inflicted upon me? And next up, we got... oh my fucking god. Minecraft, the movie. Yeah, you heard it correctly. It's going to release March the 4th, 2022. And it's going to focus on a story where a teenage girl is trying to save the overworld from an ender dragon. Why? No, just why? Was this... who looked at it and it's like, you know what Minecraft needs? A freaking movie. Okay, fine. Well, at least I'm going to get a little bit more hype from this one. Nunsflix is announcing Cyberpunk, the anime. I mean, I said movies, but anime counts too, right? Does it count? I don't know. Well, it's here on the list. And it's actually going to have a tie-in with the video game, so I wonder, like, if you haven't played the video game, will you manage to know much about the anime? I don't know, but it does sound cool. I love Cyberpunk universe. There aren't that many Cyberpunk stories out there. Too bad I terminated my Newsflix account. In other news, this is something that I'm actually looking forward to. I was very pleasantly surprised by the first Pokemon movie. I didn't expect it to be even mediocre, but it was actually quite entertaining. Now, a release date hasn't been announced yet, and it's going to be interesting to see information about the story. Because at the end of the first movie, something happens to the detective Pikachu, which would put him out of action for the sequel. So it's very interesting to see if they're going to have a movie called Detective Pikachu without the actual talking Pikachu. Now, this one actually does have a release date. It's April the 8th, 2022. And I really enjoyed the first one. And the thing that really won my heart was that the producers listened to the fans and decided to take criticism to heart rather than attack its consumer base. And the overall experience was very well received. And Jim Carrey did play a very interesting Dr. Robotnik. So I'm really curious to see where this movie is going to go, especially since the ending of the first one finished with a little bit of a cliffhanger. I am definitely having my high hopes for this sequel. Now, you might be just as surprised as I was when I found this out, but there is a Mass Effect movie in the making. Warner Brothers have the license to it, and the movie has been in production for quite a while, so we should have high expectations for when it releases. We don't know anything about the story, but I assume it's going to have a focus around Shepard, and it's probably going to be female Shepard just because it's Hollywood and they're trying to have all that female empowerment thingy, and the only way they know how to make powerful women is to give them a machine gun and have them butcher people. So I definitely expect that to take place. Hopefully this is going to be a good movie because BioWare managed to do a very successful job in completely destroying the franchise and then setting fire to the remains. And if the movie is good and people get interested, then maybe the Mass Effect franchise can make a comeback and I can spend some more quality time with my all-time favorite waifu, Talizora vas Normandy. Now here's another game that I was just wondering when are they going to make a movie because it has such a brilliant and amazing story. Call of Duty is going to have a movie. And it's not just one in the making, but there's two of them. Now, we don't know anything about it. Is it going to be focused around Black Ops? Is it going to be focused around Modern Warfare? We don't know, but oh gosh darn it, I am so excited to see this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an incredibly original story from the rich and very detailed lore that Call of Duty has to offer. And as usual, on the opposite side of the spectrum, a game with a very boring storyline that definitely does not deserve a movie is Fallout. Westworld creator Jonathan Nolan seems to have taken an interest into this and is going to create a movie in the Fallout universe. Hopefully it's going to be more like Westworld Season 1 and less of Westworld Season 2 and 3. And also a little bit less of the convoluted timeline with jumps and time skips and just like have a normal movie that can be watched without trying to decipher what the heck is going on, if it's not too much to ask. So all in all, I'm not very excited about this, but I'm not also uninterested. I will have to wait to see a trailer and hopefully it's going to be something good. Fallout definitely has a lot of interesting lore, very rich background, and the producer can go completely wild with it, not really having to focus on the story of any of the video games, but just place the setting within the Fallout universe, and it's very difficult for him to get that wrong. Finally, the one that I'm most excited about is The Last of Us. And I know this is a little bit cringe-inducing after the last game, but there are good news and bad news. Well, actually, there's more bad news than good news. The first thing is that this has been stuck in developer hell for quite a while, with absolutely no release date in sight. The good news is that the person who directed the TV show Chernobyl, Craig Mazin, is going to be overseeing the project. So that got me hyped. But then what got me unhyped is finding out that Neil Druckmann is going to be co-writing and producing. And that's big yikes. Hopefully we're not going to get any more interesting self-inserts. And at least I know that he's not going to be able to nerf the female characters. If you're unaware, the female characters in The Last of Us have been modeled by real women. Dina, for example, does have a real-life equivalent, and Neil Druckmann, for whatever reason, decided to beat her with the ugly stick for the video game adaptation. In order to make it more feminist-friendly, I don't know. I mean, it's not that they just dressed the women all the way up, it's that they gave them all short hair, broad jawlines, small breasts, make them look more androgynous. According to leaks, it seems that they did this in order to appease for the transgender community, which, from what I can tell, never asked for this in the first place. It's just something very bizarre. Again, like, I'm bringing it up because there was controversy about it in the press. And it's just like something that you notice if you're being honest and you're just like trying not to avoid the elephant in the room. But I wouldn't let my daughter next to Neil Druckmann. Like, he's going to try to uglify her. I'm definitely certain. So these are the video games that are going to be made into movies, animes, or TV shows. I didn't put that into the title because it's too long, but you get the gist of it. And apparently, like, The Last of Us is going to be a series, so not just a movie. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you're excited about any of them, and I'll be hearing from you guys in the comment section.